What's up guys, Americana back here with another video. In this one, we're going to be talking about everybody's favorite topic, and that is altcoins. We'll dive into why altcoins are one of the best bets in the market right now, as well as how we can use these charts to help build a macro picture as to why we are not in a bear market. So let's dive in. Alright guys, sorry if my tone is a little bit off or a little bit slow this week. Honestly, there's a lot to talk about. But it's more like macro and news and stuff. But when it comes to updating on the charts that we typically talk about, there's really not much. So we're going to try to run through this pretty quickly. And hopefully you guys don't get too bored. I think it's still going to be informational, especially for those who haven't been around too long. But first up, like I said, reasons to be bullish on the market. Bitcoin dominance. If you can show me a bear market where monthly momentum on Bitcoin dominance has been in a steady decline, I would like to see it. If we were down here already, if we were somewhere in here, we had already been declining, we already had bearish momentum on the monthly time frame. Yes, myself, I'd be looking for bear markets to begin and pullbacks and what they look like in that area as well. But when it's not even in the realm of possibility, we have not even crossed over to the bear side of things when it comes to Bitcoin dominance's monthly momentum. I just simply am not going to entertain it. And this works with a lot of the other things that we talk about in this market. And I'm going to have other videos this week kind of just laying out all my points as to why I'm remaining bullish on the market. But I do think for somebody who, or if I could only look at one chart, I guess I would say, you're betting on this cycle not being or being completely different. If you think that the altcoin market is not going to expand, or if you think Bitcoin dominance is going to roll over. I know that's a little bit hypocritical of me to say, because at this point I'd be betting that the 4-year cycle is different, but I personally have never believed in the 4-year cycle anyways. You'd have to be foregoing a lot of confluences, even outside of the crypto market, to say that this thing's not going to continue to decline and continue to roll over, and what that would mean for the altcoin market, what that would mean for Bitcoin, what that would mean for crypto in general, kind of blow off top kind of situation. And then we can talk about a bear market. We'll even dive into some lower time frames here as well. Bitcoin dominance on the weekly. I would have really loved to see a little weekly swing model show up in here. Nothing to really talk about. Potentially, you can see we've declined. We had a little spike last week, obviously. With the decline in Bitcoin, there's going to be kind of a flight to something a little bit more safe. But still, and we have a lot of days left this week, so I'm not making any claims here, but already moved back down on momentum there. I think when you're looking at the weekly, you might as well just look at the monthly time frame. That's going to hold more value on there. And we also will get the monthly close this week, so that'll be good to see how that plays out and how that shapes out. We'll get a little bit more data. Bitcoin dominance on the 5-day time frame. You can see this rollover, this fun part of the market, no regime or bearish regime even. So that was really good to see. And then we went during this sideways move, did get a bullish regime to return. And that's when things got a little bit sticky. This is large liquidation events. This is October 10th, all these things. But we do have this bearish regime having returned on the 5-day. And we do have momentum continuing lower. And we just had a 5-day close on Sunday, and that momentum confirmed lower as well. On the 3-day, very similar situation. Do have momentum up, but again, it's moving up within a bearish regime. The monthly is rolled over. So I think that's really key. Look at a key point to talk about, work down from these different time frames. You also see things on the lower time frame pointing to coming from Bitcoin dominance. On the daily time frame as well, again, very similar things. We're seeing the same things across these time frames show up, but bearish regime has returned. Bitcoin dominance on the daily momentum is kind of lower. Even had a little bearish divergence show up in here. I believe that was actually on Sunday's close. So that was yesterday's close. Can we get this thing to kind of lower? Can we get these regimes to keep showing up is going to be the key. All right, another chart for macro bullishness, or why I'm remaining bullish on the markets, is Ethereum price in Bitcoin on the monthly time frame. Willing to bet. I'm willing to place my money and putting my money where my mouth is. I'm not just saying this stuff, and I'm not somebody who screams alt season for 4 years straight either. I purposely launched this channel in April with the idea that Ethereum price in Bitcoin was hitting a macro floor. We would see appreciation out of the altcoin market. We would see euphoria from the crypto market, and that was going to be the best time to launch my business around crypto. So strategically did that. It's played out so far. It's continued to play out. So long as Ethereum price and Bitcoin is moving up like this, don't think there's a reason to be overly bearish. If Bitcoin lost its range, it'd be interesting to see if Bitcoin lost its range. Seeing these dynamics show up would continue to make me curious. So drop down to the weekly as well. With this little, stink out into the weekly close again for a second time, Ethereum price and Bitcoin still held its bullish regime. Little kickback in momentum, I believe. Let's see. Let me zoom in here. Yeah, a little bit of a decline in that momentum, but up in here, we'll see if we can close the week similar to how we are now. Also, these buy approaching signals continuing to flash in there. My biggest one, or kind of best looking one in my opinion, is this 5-day chart. One that we just closed on Sunday, or just confirmed on Sunday, and confirmed it in a bullish regime. We also have signal buys approaching, just spamming at this point. I think honestly, if Bitcoin can move up from here, if Bitcoin can go liquidate the bears at 98K and things like that, then could start confirming, and we could start seeing things out on the lower time frames. So if you'll notice in here when we talk about like the weekly and daily, right, similar to Bitcoin dominance, how we started getting bearish regimes, it's right around the time we started getting bullish regimes on Ethereum price and Bitcoin. This pullback that contained liquidations, October 10th liquidations, all bad times, we're starting to heal from that when we look at those charts or those time frames. Same thing, even when we drop to the daily, we see these bullish regimes start to show up around a similar time. So we're just going to keep updating this. Monthly close this week is going to be the big key. I wouldn't anticipate something crazy happening and momentum somehow finding a way to like roll over in a month, but it does happen. We will be the first to update on those. And I think, like I said, in combination with other things that we see around not only the crypto market, but other markets as well, having the confirmation of this monthly momentum rolling up and bears not really being able to explain it or completely avoiding it is very telling in my opinion. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to two other charts that I feel are important to talk about, and they are the others charts. So altcoins outside the top 10, I think it is. I always forget if it's top 10 or top 25, but anyways, it's like your mid cap altcoins, not going to be your majors and stuff like that. So really telling of overall altcoin performance in my opinion. But on the weekly close last week, we had a weekly divergence show up, bullish divergence, of course. We can see past times in this cycle, this has marked areas where we have been able to find a bottom. To be fully transparent with everybody, because I think that's important, you do see these things show up on the decline of the bear market as well. But that's why context is important, okay? Because if we looked at Ethereum price and Bitcoin, or if we looked at Bitcoin dominance at this time, let's go ahead and we can do that. That's April 25th of 2022. Let's go ahead and look at Ethereum price and Bitcoin. April 25th of 2022. Well, where was Ethereum price and Bitcoin at? It was topping out, right? Momentum had already crossed, had already moved all the way the hell up here. Completely different from where we're at currently. Can look at Bitcoin dominance. Let me go to the monthly time frame. I think I said what, April of 22. So if we go over to April of 22, somewhere, boom. Okay, so you could see Bitcoin dominance had already crossed, steadily declined, all of these things. Good indication that whatever was going to happen in the altcoin market had already happened. And so when we look at stuff like others, we can kind of ignore this time, right? You can see bearish regime had been in bearish regimes, bullish regime / no regime in here. Same for this time period, and kind of completely different opinion, even if you're looking at structure, but all these dominances and stuff like that had been completely blown out at that time. Ethereum price and Bitcoin expanding, all that stuff. So I don't have data on Bitcoin dominance to April 15, I think I do. I do, but all the way up here, and I don't have monthly momentum for it. But you can assume that if the market did end up finding a bottom in here, that those dominances were probably working on similar things, right? Declining momentums and Bitcoin dominance and others, or Bitcoin dominance and increasing Ethereum price and Bitcoin at that time. And you can see that when those dynamics were in play and you got these bullish divergences, those actually did mark the bottoms of whatever little range or whatever it was working on. So pretty interesting to see that show up. Honestly, really, really happy that it did. It gives us some more confluence and confirmation. When it comes to the regression band, make sure you check out my Ethereum and Bitcoin videos as well. Kind of getting into that regression band again, which when we look at past times has been a good thing. Same thing for the 5-day as well. Getting into the regression band starting to compress, starting to curl up from the underside. 3-day time frame, also getting a buy signal, right? And this looks a lot better too when we put it do others BTC, but I did want to show you this others chart as well. Then down to the daily time frame, similar things that we've seen this cycle, finding a bottom, that bear or bullish regime has returned, finding a bottom, that bullish regime has returned. Similar to Ethereum and Bitcoin's charts, currently there isn't really anything to scream home about when it comes to momentum. But we do have that weekly bullish divergence, which I think is really good to show up. And hopefully in the coming days, things like that, we can see this thing start to kick up a little bit and kind of give us the answers. So I do want to point out, when it comes to this chart, I think you'll have an idea relatively soon, right? We've been messing around with range lows for a while now, and we have a few times this cycle. So if this thing moves lower and does this, then yeah, it's probably going to be some sort of bear market or some sort of correction or whatever have you, or it will definitely be some sort of correction. But until that happens, you're just sitting at range lows and you're getting bullish divergences at range lows. And to me, that is not a bad thing, especially when we start to take a look at things like others BTC as well. All right, so others BTC, this is the monthly time frame. We'll give you some context real quick. I'm taking fib extensions or fib retracements from this high or this low to this high, and then from this low right here to this high. You can see we pulled back to the 786 retracement. This one being a little bit deeper down to the 886 this cycle, but when you think about it, that's because in 2016-17 we had kind of had two alt seasons, so this thing went a little further. I think the bigger thing to focus in on is the monthly momentum, which similar to Bitcoin dominance, similar to Ethereum price and Bitcoin, has been kicking up, which is really, really nice to see. I do want to point this out in here, right? This is June 24 to like December 24. We didn't get across in there, and I don't think that's anything to point to like, oh, that was our shot and like now it's a bear market, because Ethereum price and Bitcoin was not ready at that time, right? Ethereum price and Bitcoin hadn't hit range lows. Okay, if we look at, what did I say that was? This area in here, Ethereum price and Bitcoin was not curling up, hadn't hit this kind of like macro, was still above this midline that has historically marked when it can find a bottom and when things get fun. So big difference there when we see this show up. Okay, but yeah, monthly momentum on others BTC is curling up after hitting similar retracement levels. Really nice to see. And in hitting these levels, this goes back to June of 25, and then more specifically, this kind of tighter range in here. This is the October 10th crash and stuff like that. But others BTC has held a floor, absolute floor. Weekly time frame as well, even with last week's close, even with Bitcoin moving down, okay, we were able to have a higher close on momentum in others BTC. So your altcoins actually performed as bad or not as bad as Bitcoin in the down week. Okay, so even more confluence there. Weekly swing model showing up. If I add this on the daily time frame, should pop in. So you can see weekly to daily swing model as well. Daily time frame, right? Daily time frame curling up even into last week's or even into Sunday's close. So if I what do I need to remove here? Boom. This is Sunday. We closed a green regime on Sunday when Bitcoin dumped 2-3%, whatever it was. Held the monthly open on others BTC with rising momentum and a green regime. First couple green regimes that we've seen since the October 10th crash in the altcoin market. So I do honestly really think things are healing, and I don't think these things would be healing if the market was meant to go into some macro bear. This entire time in here, really don't care what altcoins do. I do not care about altcoins until Ethereum priced in Bitcoin can bottom. Once it does, then I'm paying attention, right? So where did Ethereum price and Bitcoin bottom? April, somewhere in here. And you can see if you mark that in there, since Ethereum price and Bitcoin bottomed, yes, price has whipsawed around. But if we look at momentum, it's been steadily going up, steadily up. Getting to this point where things could drastically be improving, especially with these weekly bullish divergences showing up in here. With what we're seeing, monthly momentum on ETH BTC and Bitcoin dominance. So guys, I just want to point this stuff out, right? Bitcoin is not drastically outperforming. It's not any safer than altcoins have been this entire time, really, as of late, on these dips and volatilities and things like that. We have all of these charts pointing to the altcoin market going higher, and I don't think there's a chance that the altcoin market goes higher without Bitcoin going higher. Thus, the cycle is probably not over. That's just my 2 cents. That's just where I'm putting my money. That's how I'm playing it. I own a lot more altcoins currently than I have this entire cycle. And I'm not somebody who alt season, like I said, for 3, 4, 5 years straight. But I just wanted you guys to see these charts. I think we might have talked about them last week, but I still think they're important. I still think it's really interesting to see there's BTC have rising momentum in a week where even Bitcoin did not have rising weekly momentum or rising daily momentum. At the same time, you're getting these charts to potentially have bullish divergences and bottom out while you're having these monthly dynamics in play. I definitely think it is something you guys need to be paying attention to. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you guys want updates on these charts or see what trades I'm taking. Typically my trades are around Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's just a little bit cleaner and easier to trade. But yeah, if you guys want to know more, make sure you join my free Discord. Ask any questions you want. Leave a question in the comments. I'll make sure I get to it. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.